Today, we're going to go a little deeper than just buying or selling Bitcoin. We're talking about becoming a part of its very backbone. We're going to dive into what it really means to run your own personal validator for the network, and why it might just be the ultimate step in taking control of your digital money.
You know, when you send or receive Bitcoin, your wallet eventually says confirmed. But have you ever stopped to ask, who's actually doing the confirming? Who's the referee on the field, checking the rules, making sure every single transaction is legit? The answer to that question gets to the very heart of Bitcoin's decentralized power.
Well, that's where something called a Bitcoin node comes in. Think of it as your own personal, incorruptible bookkeeper. This piece of software downloads the entire history of Bitcoin and meticulously verifies every single transaction, from the very first one to the one that just happened. It doesn't trust anyone else's word for it. It builds its own source of truth. This means you have the authoritative copy right there on your machine.
Okay, so that leads to the big question, right? Why on earth would you go through the trouble of running one? Well, the answer really boils down to one incredibly powerful idea: self-sovereignty. It's all about taking back control.
See, without your own node, you're essentially trusting some third-party service to tell you what's true. You're kind of asking a stranger, hey, is my money real? But when you run your own, you become the authority. Your wallet connects directly to your node, which means your transactions are validated by a system you completely control. And the cool part? Every single node like yours makes the entire Bitcoin network stronger and more decentralized. You go from being just a user to being part of the infrastructure.
All right, let's say you're on board. You want that control. The most secure, most trustworthy way to do it is to build the software yourself directly from the raw source code. Let's take a look at how that actually works. Think of it like this. Developers write the recipe for the Bitcoin software in a human-readable language. The process we call compilation is like handing that recipe to your computer. The computer then follows the instructions and cooks it up into a finished program that it can actually run. We're taking the raw blueprint and turning it into a working piece of software.
Now, this might look a bit technical, but each step is all about building trust. First, the make command tells your computer to build the program from that raw code. Nobody else has touched it. Next, make check is a super important quality control step. It runs a whole suite of tests to prove that the software was put together correctly with no errors. And finally, sudo make install takes that verified program and officially places it on your system, ready to go. You didn't just download software, you created it.
And here's our first little victory lap. We can ask our system, hey, where did you put the main Bitcoin program? That's Bitcoin. When it answers with this location, that's the confirmation. It's installed, and the core engine of our node is ready to fire up.
And we do the exact same check for Bitcoin CLI. This is basically the remote control we'll use to talk to our node. Seeing this path tells us our toolkit is complete. We've just successfully built our own trusted gateway to the Bitcoin network, right from the ground up.
But building the software is really just the first step. Running a node 24/7, well, that's a real commitment. It isn't exactly free, so let's get real and break down the actual costs in terms of your computer's resources.
So, what's the actual price tag for this kind of financial sovereignty? It's not measured in dollars, but in gigabytes, in bandwidth, and in stability. Let's get into the specifics.
First up, storage space. And this is the big one. To independently verify everything, your node needs to download the entire history of Bitcoin since 2009. Right now, that's over 500 gigabytes of data. To put that in perspective, that's like downloading well over 100 movies in high definition. And that number is always going up.
And the work doesn't stop once you're synced up. Your node has to constantly keep up with the network, downloading all the new blocks and transactions as they happen. That adds up to about 400 megabytes of new data every single day. Over a month, that's more than 12 gigabytes just to stay current.
So, when you put it all together, the huge initial download, plus the constant daily growth, the practical advice is pretty clear. You're going to want at least a 1 terabyte drive. This gives you plenty of breathing room and peace of mind, so your node can keep growing with the network for years to come.
But storage is only half the battle. Your node doesn't just download data, it also serves data out to other nodes, which uses up your upload bandwidth. This is where you really need to look at your internet plan. If you have a data cap, running a node all day, every day could get expensive fast. A stable, unmetered, always-on connection is really what you're aiming for.
So we've looked at the why, the how, and the how much. And it all really boils down to a fundamental choice you have to make about your role in the network.
It's a trade-off between convenience and control.
On one side, using a third-party service is super easy. It's fast. But you're placing your trust in their validation, and you're giving up some privacy since they can see your transactions. You're a consumer of the network. On the other side, running your own node, yeah, it takes some work and resources, but the payoff is immense. You trust your own validation, you get complete privacy, and you become a true contributor, actively making the network you use even stronger.
And that brings us to the final, crucial question. You've probably heard the Bitcoin motto, be your own bank. Well, running a node is the most powerful way to make that a reality. It has real costs in storage, in bandwidth, and a little bit of your time. But it also offers the ultimate reward, true financial sovereignty. So you have to ask yourself, is that power worth the price?